Item number 10 is an ordinance adding Section 5.10 to the San Francisco Park Code to establish the San Francisco Zoo and oversight committees.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, this is another item that was heard back on our July 17th meeting. It was a robust hearing, one in which I think that the issues of the legislation regarding the vision or the vision for the future of the San Francisco Zoo, I think was laid out in that committee hearing. At the end of it, Supervisor Duffy asked for some more time for representatives of the zoo, of the city, and of stakeholder groups who have been active in animal rights issues to meet, to discuss the legislation, discuss the future of the zoo, and see if there could be a meeting of the minds or a coming together. I would like to see this hearing move this issue forward in terms of not dwelling too much on the exact content of the last committee hearing, but dealing with a review of some of the discussions that have happened to see if there is common ground to move forward. If not, to attempt to distill where parties are at on this and see if at that point if it's appropriate to move forward with the legislation as written or as amended. With that said, I do have some speakers, but I will defer to Mr. Friedman in terms of the city's representative who's been involved in some of the discussions.
Mr. Chairman,
and before I do that, obviously committee member, Supervisor Duffy.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I just procedurally want to know, I believe there's a special order at 1:30, and so I just wanted to understand, since there's a large number of people here, what your approach was going to be. Are we going to start this item and finish it, or how will we handle it as relates to the special order?
I'm hoping that we'll be done with this item at 1:30. I'm going to be asking members of the public to limit their comments to 1 minute. If there are,
I won't support that.
If
given the number of people that have been here and have been waiting for over 2 hours, I understand that we have a complication with scheduling, but I don't think it's respectful when this many people come out and they stay 2 hours to tell them on an issue that is complex. And yes, there have been a lot of discussions and negotiations. I've sat down with IDA, the Animal Welfare Commission members, and representatives from the zoo. It's complex, and so I just that's why I wanted to raise this, because I am concerned that we give this the due time and consideration, and there is a special order. So,
and I would just say to Supervisor Duffy, obviously, the committee can overrule the chair. I think that there are complex issues. If there are members of the public, after speaking for a minute, who are not finished with discussing complex issues, obviously, any member of this committee can engage an attempt for the information of the committee in terms of the decision-making process to bring that out. But let me tell you what I think is happening, Supervisor Duffy. And I've been around for 7.5 years, and you for just 2 years short of that. This is an item that is charged at the end of the hearing last week. I did not believe, based on my assessment and knowledge of the issue, that there would be a resolution or a compromise reached, because I think there's competing visions for the zoo. And I think that some of the backers of the legislation that I put forward, who were out in front of the issue in terms of framing the issue and the advocacy, now have been caught up in terms of attempting to frame the issue and the advocacy from the stakeholders from the zoo. And that's fine, and that's that's how these issues play out and how it's played. With that said, I would be shocked if I hear anything today that I haven't heard already or hasn't been, a part of the discussions that have happened between our city's representation, the zoo stakeholders, and the community. And while I want to be respectful of folks who come to participate in the process, and why I will always demand that people have the ability to participate and that the law is followed, I'm also not going to go out of my way to give extra time for an entity that's basically looking to challenge legislation that I'm an advocate of. I'm not going to go out of my way to give them a forum to oppose me. I mean, let's, we had a hearing last week. The issues were put out there. I think they were put out fairly. If there are those who have new issues that they want to raise, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the AZA's letter that's come in, and, how legitimate that is and how important that is. If we need more time, if the speaker has knowledge or input about that and they need 2 or 3 minutes instead of 1 to discuss that issue, we have the ability to ask that speaker specific questions about what they're talking about and to extend it. But my hope today, almost the last meeting, the last regular meeting before we head on a 3.5-week recess on the Board of Supervisors, was the hope was to get through this hearing and through some pretty other heavy topics that are somewhat time sensitive, and to be able to do this from 10 o'clock until later this afternoon.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I don't mean.
And that's what's going on, and it's fine. You're here 7.5 years and you see this thing, and ultimately we're going to have to make some votes. And that's what it's going to come down to, and it's fine. If your vision of the zoo is the current vision, then that's your vision. If your vision of the zoo is one which puts the animals first, then that's your vision. And the latter is my vision. I'm not sure where colleagues are, and we won't know until the item comes out for a vote. I think that I know where the stakeholder groups are, and I think I know that an institution like the zoo is able to mobilize people, whether they're through their programs or through their relationships. Organizations working on animal rights are able to mobilize people, and based on the issues they organize. And this is a forum for us to hear that, but it's also the second hearing after a 2 to 3 hour hearing 3 weeks ago, where we heard from these parties already. And so it is not uncommon here at the Board of Supervisors for us to allow 3 minutes at first hearings and then lesser times at subsequent hearings. There's been, there's been dozens of occasions where we've done that at the full Board of Supervisors. We provide for 2 minutes of general public comment, oftentimes on items that have never come up in front of the Board of Supervisors before. Members of the public are given 2 minutes, and oftentimes that I very rarely see that time extended for any member of the public commenting there. So I'm not trying to shut anyone down. I'm also trying to get through a committee hearing, and there have been several dozen times where we've limited public comment to 1 minute in the course of 7.5 years. Hopefully, it's not at a first hearing on a politically charged issue, which this is not. This is the second.
Chairman, I wanted to wait till you completed your remarks, and as you're not here to railroad an issue, I'm not here to stonewall an issue. I'm simply suggesting that given the complexity, given the reality that there have been discussions which I think are unprecedented involving the advocacy community, members of the Animal Welfare Commission, and members of the Zoological Society, the fact that there's a new director, the fact that Mr. Friedman was reassigned or requested to go to the zoo to help to address some of these issues. I think that there is area for discussion, and this legislation will not take effect within 30 days. We are in a contractual relationship with the zoo and with the Zoological Society, and I think that there is tremendous merit in discussing the 3 major areas that you're addressing, which is animal welfare, which is oversight, and what the mission of the zoo is. I would be amenable to 2 minutes. I think that would be reasonable. I just recognize that from a scheduling standpoint, and it is no fault of your own. Items can go longer or shorter based upon the people who come before us. But I'm just simply concerned that starting this now, I just want to clearly understand, and I just don't want to, particularly when you have an item with a committee report where our colleagues may watch this hearing, they may not watch the first hearing, but they may watch this hearing as a result of the efforts that have been made to kind of come to some common ground, that we not push this through. But I will abide by, I've made my views clear, I would abide by 2 minutes. I will not support 1 minute.
Well, you know, Supervisor Duffy, I'm not sure if you know this, but we're going to lose our third member in the middle of the afternoon today in terms of Supervisor Amiano with a medical appointment. You know, and ultimately, I'd like to see some votes. You know, I think that I mean, there's a timeline. I mean, you know, you can hash issues out. I mean, if I felt that there was going to be you know, a coming together in terms of a vision for the zoo, I think that I would defer to you. And, you know, whether we take 1 minute or 2 minutes for public comment, really it's about, you know, potentially hundreds of folks coming for our 1:30 special order. I thought we were going to be able to deal with appropriately with the items in front of us. Typically, second hearings on items are not as big as first hearings on items. In this case, it seems to be about as big. That was a 3-hour hearing. I think that you do 3 minutes of public comment, you get a 3-hour hearing. If you could do 2 minutes of public comment, you could do a 2-hour hearing. You do 1 minute of public comment, you have about a 1-hour hearing. We have about an hour. That's why I'm looking to limit public comment to about a minute. You know, perhaps we could talk about 90 seconds at a certain point.
Just have the votes. Vote on the procedure. I won't support 1 minute. It's not my fault. I come, I make my schedule. I've totally opened myself up to be here all day. I understand that there are other demands. You know, I don't know why.
I mean, I'm not sure what you want me to do. Mr. Friedman.
Well, how are we going to agree on how much time?
The chair sets the time unless there's 2 votes on the committee to overrule it. Mr. Owen? Yes? All right. Mr. Friedman, you have more than 1 minute. You're a representative of the department. You can speak for as long as the committee is interested. This is why term limits are good. Nobody likes anybody after 7 years with them. All right, Mr. Friedman.
I don't like what's going on.
Well, you like me. I have mixed feelings about you. Mr. Friedman.
That's okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, Supervisors.
Honestly, we're going to try and do this, all right?
Good afternoon.
With or without you guys. Come on.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I'm Carl Friedman, Director of Animal Care and Control. As you know, I've been detailed to the Recreation and Parks Department to help the San Francisco Zoo meet many of the challenges facing them. Since there are many people here who wish to be heard, I'll try and be very brief. The other day, someone asked me, whose side are you on, the zoos or the animal activists? I was taken by surprise because I never thought my role was to take sides, but rather to try and find some common ground. My hopes were that through dialogue and meetings, both sides could discuss their concerns and issues and hopefully reach some kind of understanding of one another. Representatives from In Defense of Animals, the Zoological Society and their top management, the City Attorney's Office, the Recreation and Parks Department, this board's own Commission of Animal Control and Welfare, myself and others met numerous times over the last few weeks. I feel these meetings have been very productive. On the animal welfare issues, there is much agreement. We all concur that the zoo must operate with animal welfare as the highest priority, and that the basic tenet of the zoo policy shall be to acquire animals from rescue situations whenever possible and practical, and to provide the best possible care, environment, and quality of life to those individual animals in their care. No animal shall be held unless the basic requirements for physical and psychological well-being can be met, and every effort shall be made to enhance the quality of life for these animals. If the San Francisco Zoo cannot provide this, then they must strive to find appropriate alternative placements. Additionally, no animal shall be added to the zoo unless there is appropriate habitat and able and knowledgeable staff to provide the proper care. As some of you already know, I'm sort of coming to the end of my career, so I have no agenda here other than watching out for the animals. I have no axe to grind, unless by grinding an axe.
Mr. Friedman, can we just get to the conversations and talk about what they are, where people are at? And I'm not questioning your motives, your intent. I'm letting you speak first. I just want to get to where we are.
I'm trying to do that, Supervisor.
Okay. And I'm trying to help you.
I understand. So let me speak frankly. I think the Zoological Society realizes it could have been more inclusive in some of its past decisions. And just as frankly, I think that this legislation, and indeed the energy that you, Supervisor Daley, has brought to the conversation, needs to be acknowledged for pointing this out and motivating.
Mr. Freeman, can we get to the part of your remarks that deal with who's, you know,
what
where's
part
the zoo, where's
All right, Supervisor, what part do you want me to say? Can we reach common ground?
I mean, what's the zoo saying in terms of what they think about moving forward with a rescue facility? What are the advocates saying? Has there been a compromise?
If you let me speak, maybe I can get something.
All right, let's just go to my speakers list. Okay. I mean, no. Philip Jerry, Dr. Kim Haddad, Nicole Paquette, Denise Boble. You have 1 minute. Come on up. Commissioner Jerry. Yeah. This is our commissioner, however, so Mr. Jerry.
Okay. Feel like I'm on the hard act to follow here. My name is Philip Gary. I currently serve on the Animal Control and Welfare Commission. As you know, our commission addresses a wide variety of animal-related issues in the city. I have been involved in the zoo issues since our commission took it up. Every commissioner was supportive in our recommendation to you. I am very proud of our recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, and I'd like to thank Supervisor Daley for introducing the necessary ordinance. I support the proposed ordinance to give the zoo a much-needed new direction. I'm excited about the potential of the ordinance. It is the best opportunity to turn the direction away from the slow, sad decline that the zoo is currently experiencing. At the July 17th meeting, at the hearing, the Zoological Society claimed that they have 100 rescue animals out of more than 700 animals at the zoo. This is a good start, but a recommendation takes that start and from it creates a progressive vision for our zoo, primarily obtaining future animals from a U.S. pool of animals in need, taking them from worse situations and giving them a new home would be a positive step for the city to take. Witness the story of the grizzly orphans. I'd like to briefly emphasize 3 basic tenets of a recommendation that are essential building blocks to the ordinance. Number 1, accountability. It's essential that tangible requirements are established to achieve the new vision. Without requirements, we have no assurances that change will be embraced by the Zoological Society. The Society has promised change but has not fulfilled their promises to the state. Number 2, an independent standalone oversight committee is an essential component of our commission recommendation. An examination of the current Joint Zoo Committee monthly meeting consists of approving the buying and selling and trading of animals with no discussion of their welfare. It's about business. You need to prioritize this oversight commission to be as independent as possible by appointing citizens that have animal welfare as their main concern. It should represent the citizens of San Francisco. Number 3, don't delay. Earlier this year, our commission held 3 public hearings on the zoo issue. The Zoological Society chose not to send anyone to participate in any of the meetings. Why didn't they come? As you know, the SF Zoo has been floundering for 15 years since being taken over by the Zoological Society. They have been struggling to show what is working in a failed system. We have given the Zoological Society 15 years of chances. It's time for the city to set a new direction for the zoo, one that prioritizes animal welfare at every level, while maintaining the zoo as a place where children and adults alike can be educated about the wonders of animals and learn to have respect and compassion for them. Thank you, Supervisor Daley, for your vision in sponsoring this much-needed new ordinance. This is for the welfare of the animals. Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Jerry, you talked a bit about the Oversight Committee. I know that's been one of the discussion points in the last 3 weeks with the Zoological Society. And I know that one of the ideas that I think has been kicking around from the other side is to, or perhaps it's from staff, is to roll the oversight function, instead of having an Oversight Committee specifically on the zoo, into your commission. And I'm wondering, as a commissioner, why it is that you think that's not a good idea.
I think that the task of this new oversight committee is so broad and needs so much attention that we really wouldn't be able to do it justice. It feels like it needs to be an independent, standalone committee, and it wouldn't serve the animals in general in San Francisco for us to be devoting a lot of our energies into the SF Zoo. I just feel strongly that it needs to be a separate standalone committee.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Dr. Haddad, followed by Nicole Paquette. And then we're now, Madam Clerk, we're now down to 1 minute per speaker, member of the public. Thank you for coming, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this important issue. I'll try to be as brief as I can. My name is Dr. Kim Haddad. I was born and raised in San Francisco, and I've been very familiar with the zoo for more than 4 decades. I'm a veterinarian and own 3 small animal hospitals on the San Francisco Peninsula. I'm the manager of the Captive Wild Animal Protection Coalition and the veterinarian for a small AZA-accredited facility that houses primarily rescued, non-releasable California native wildlife. I've devoted the past 12-plus years to animal welfare and advocacy and understand the complex issues and problems of the pet trade and work very closely with zoo professionals, rescue organizations, and animal welfare professionals. As a relief and consulting veterinarian at the San Francisco Zoo for several years, I've grown to know and respect the zoo staff, professional workers who love and respect the animals in their care. But with limited resources and a lack of vision, I feel that very little has changed at the zoo over the years that actually benefits the animals. Today we have the opportunity to make great strides to transform the San Francisco Zoo, an opportunity to bring the zoo out of the shadows of the past and into the future. Okay.
It's not a lot of time.
No, it's not.
I apologize to everyone about that, but thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Nicole Paquette, and I'm with Born Free USA, and we're a wildlife conservation organization. I do want to thank you for bringing this ordinance. I just want to make 2 points. At the last hearing, we did hear that the ordinance, if it passes, that the zoo would no longer be accredited by the AZA. In fact, in the AZA's letter of opposition, it states that the main reason that the zoo would lose accreditation is that the zoo would no longer meet the AZA's primary mission of a zoo, which is to exhibit, conserve, and preserve the Earth's fauna in an educational and scientific manner. Nothing in this ordinance is contrary to the AZA's primary mission of the zoo. If this passes, the zoo will continue to be open to the public and exhibit. The zoo will continue to engage in its conservation work, and the zoo will continue to educate its visitors about the animals. Nothing precludes this, and the AZA knows this. Second, I want to say that
I have a question, Ms. Paquette, and that's on the issue of conservation. And 3 weeks ago, I was not understanding the position about how a rescue zoo conflicted with the mission of conservation. I think I'm still at the same place I was 3 weeks ago in terms of not understanding. I'm wondering, in terms of your conservation work, if you can speak to how a zoo that is converted into a rescue facility, does or does not fulfill the function or mission of conservation of animals.
Well, in our opinion, of course, it will continue to conserve animals both within the facility as well as in the wild, like it currently does. I mean, just for my background, our organization owns a primate sanctuary where we actually rescue primates from the pet trade and from roadside zoos and actually AZA facilities. We continue educating our members, the public, all about what happens to these animals in the wild, what's going on. Like currently, there are species of macaques that are being killed in Japan. That's the animals we conserve, and we are educating the public, and we are helping that issue. There's nothing that's going to change for the zoo. For example, the zoo will continue to be able to donate money to conservation projects in the wild. They will continue to be able to breed SSP animals, and they will continue to be able to be part of those efforts that the AZA puts forth.
All right. Thank you very much. Denise Bobel.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I'm sorry we got off to such a contentious start, but I wanted to just say that it's really urgent.
For the Board of Supervisors, this is actually friendly. Keep speaking.
But I wanted to just say that it's so essential that we take action now and not delay. We need to get this ball rolling. It's not before the full board yet. We need to get this out of committee. I have to say that when Mr. Friedman was speaking, my experience in all the meetings that I've attended in the last 3 weeks and before the meetings, is he has had a very firm position. And his position has always been that of the zoo. And the language that he read to you when he said, we're for a rescue zoo, when possible and practical, is the key. They don't want to be required. They don't want any requirements. They want it to be up to them. They'll decide. They'll make the decision. And if they want to get churro sheep, which is a special breed of sheep, then that's what they're going to do. And if there's not a churro sheep available for rescue, then they're going to go back to the breeder. And that's essentially why this legislation is needed and why it needs to have a requirement, because we need assurances from the Zoological Society.
Ms. Boble, having been in all of the meetings in the last 3 weeks, I'm wondering if you can characterize, and I'll ask Ms. Peterson to come up after you, but I'm wondering if you can characterize where you are at in terms of one of the organizational sponsors of the legislation, where you perceive the zoo to be, and the difference in what we need to either negotiate or vote on.
Right. Well, as Supervisor Dufty said earlier, there are 3 components. It's animal welfare, the oversight, and the rescue zoo concept. In animal welfare, we're all on the same page. Basically, we all agree, yeah, animal welfare, there are problems, there are animals that there maybe shouldn't be there, and we need to improve the conditions, and all the conditions are not good. Second of all, on the rescue zoo concept, I have to say that I think there are just fundamental differences in vision. And I don't know that the zoo's going to own that, but they don't want to be primarily, the first 3 meetings, I have direct quotes that I wrote from the meeting where they said point blank, we do not want to be a rescue zoo. We don't mind having a rescue component. We don't even mind increasing the rescue component, but we don't want to be a rescue. We don't want to primarily source our animals from the U.S. pool of animals in need. And that's the fundamental difference. And that's what we have to, look to you to vote on at the end of the day, because they're not going to do it to themselves. And then with oversight, it really needs to be an independent oversight committee that reports to the board. Right now, we have the mayor-appointed Rec and Park Commission and the Joint Zoo Committee, and obviously that is not working. And when Mr. Friedman says maybe the Zoological Society and the Rec and Park Commission and all of them have not been open enough and engaging enough with the animal advocacy, I would challenge that and say that if you look at the record, they haven't been open at all. We had to come to you to get the meetings with the Zoological Society. Today, as we speak, I've asked for just basic information on what animals the zoo has bred and released to the wild, and I've been told that, under Sunshine, we're not obligated to give you that information, and we're not going to give it because there's not a document. But thank you very much, and I urge voting on this issue today. We can have future hearings at the board level. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Boble. Ms. Peterson, a representative from the zoo. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Tanya Peterson with the San Francisco Zoo. I want to clear and clarify that animal welfare is our #1 priority at the San Francisco Zoo. There are over a dozen zookeepers here today that are on their own time, Supervisor Daly. They're city workers, they're union workers. I could not compensate them for coming today. They are here to plead their case that this not turn into a rescue facility. They are nervous, and I hope you give them some time to explain their cause. I am proud of them for coming today, and I think you'll understand that animal welfare is their #1 priority. We are not opposed to a portion of the zoo being to rescue. As you know, already 100 of our animals are from rescue, diseased, injured situations. But this legislation is requiring me to put all of my resources into making this a rescue zoo. That means I've got to stop the 166,000 outreach programs to students like Nature Trail, like zoo camps, like zoo mobiles. I will simply not have the funding for those.
Can we talk?
Sure.
I don't read anywhere in the legislation, and the city attorney's not here, but I don't read in the legislation where it requires you to cease your educational components. The legislation, my intent and the way that I read the legislation is it speaks to the animals that you keep at the zoo, what you're allowed to, the limited animals that you're allowed to breed, and then ask you to get rescue animals otherwise. does not, I don't see how that limits the educational component, but if you can explain to me
Certainly.
the legislation's.
Twofold. Firstly, it's a matter of resources. As I read this legislation, resources have to be dedicated to turning this into a rescue facility. As some of the keepers will explain today, there are costs, high costs associated with the care of rescue animals. But more importantly, donors restrict their funds to certain education and outreach and at-risk youth. We've already heard from one education grant that after this year they're no longer going to fund us because they don't want to fund a rescue facility. It's a matter of resources. I need to take the extra money that comes from the gate and fund some of these programs. With this legislation, as I understand it as supervisor, I have to make this, transform this into a rescue facility. That limits the funds that I have for education or conservation programs.
The legislation doesn't speak to
money.
Your money or your budget.
Well, that's
the legislation speaks to how you acquire animals and the animals that you acquire. Now, I've heard the argument, and I appreciate it, that there's a fear that a rescue zoo with the type of animals that are there, would not attract the same attendance, that you would have trouble with certain donors. I hear that. I've also heard on the other side that this, as a new model, perhaps would garner additional attention or additional resources. So, you hear that, and you're hearing a concern, and you're hearing an opportunity, and you sort of have to make a decision, by feel.
Right.
Because of the newness of this. And so I see that, but I don't think that it's fair to say that this legislation requires you to defund educational programs, because the legislation does not do that. I mean, I think that you could say that we fear that if we make this transformation that we would lose some resources and not have them then for those components. I hear that argument, but I don't think that it is true that the legislation requires a deletion of any of the educational components that you're currently running.
Well, there's no empirical evidence to support that it won't happen. We've been doing this for 80 years, right? And this is our experience, that people have to connect not only with the bird with the broken wing who cannot fly, but people have to connect with the majesty of a lion or the gracefulness of giraffe. Those connections will be lost if we have to focus only on the rescue animal. Again, this is a complex issue, as Supervisor Dufty was saying. And we've had rescue animals. We have Ulu, a polar bear. No one is happy with the exhibit in which she resides. But the money is not overflowing to save Ulu. That's a rescue situation. She's a delightful animal. She keeps me up at night because I worry about her. But the money is not overflowing to save Ulu and her current exhibit. We have to have a strategic plan. We have to show donors where we're going forward, and we have that plan. We have been building naturalistic habitats that respect, connect, and save the animals. We need to do more of that. I don't think turning this into a rescue zoo in its entirety will put us into the zoos that in the zoo of the future that this community demands.
Okay, and then can we address the oversight committee?
We can address the oversight.
And then if there's any other either points of contention or agreement that you wish to talk about, I would allow you to, but I know that this has been identified and want to get to where you're at.
As you know, there are several government entities that do provide oversight right now. On a national level, it's the USDA. They frequently visit us to ensure that we comply with the Federal Animal Welfare Act. We also receive visits from Cal OSHA to ensure the safety and compliance of our working conditions for our employees and our animals. Professionally, we have oversight by the Association of Aquariums and Zoos, that's called the AZA, to ensure that we are consistent in maintaining safe practices for both the public and our animals. Here locally, we have to report into the Rec and Park, and through the Rec and Park, there was a commission entitled the Joint Zoo that oversees the facilities and the acquisitions of the zoo. We have suggested that the Joint Zoo should participate more cohesively with the current commission, the Animal Control and Welfare Commission. We invite a vigorous debate. We invite more transparency. But we think there are several entities and means now where there is oversight, and we can make those better but I don't think creating another additional body is going to allow us well, here's my fear is efficiency. Creating another 8th bureaucratic arm will not allow us to recruit the right kind of the director, will not allow us to focus on what we need to do at hand, and that's focus on our operations and our animals. I think we need to make what we have better.
I mean, Commissioner, let me just discuss this with you for a moment. If the Board of Supervisors in the City and County of San Francisco decides, and basically what this legislation is if it passes the way it currently is written, it would be the city deciding that in the future, perhaps at the end of the lease or the contract with the Zoological Society, that we wish to implement these changes. The legislation also calls for, if there are steps that can be made along the way between now and in 4.5 or 5 years from now, for us perhaps to take that opportunity. Sometimes here at the Board of Supervisors, we're dealing with land use issues and criminal justice issues and housing issues and health care issues and all sorts of various things that people who were here for 2 hours watching this committee got to watch, and we aren't able to devote our full attention to zoo issues or animal welfare issues, and therefore we create bodies to basically be extensions of our efforts to help do the work product and then to report to us. And I think that the idea in terms of crafting this legislation is for us to have an entity focused on the zoo and on the transition as we've asked for the transition to happen. Without it, I think that there's the fear that the work doesn't get done, that the attention to the detail is not there, and it's not going to happen out of an office of a member of the Board of Supervisors with 2 staff people working on 100 different issues. It just isn't. And so I heard about the idea of a committee under our Animal Welfare Commission. Then there's the Rec and Park Commission, which is more of an extension of the executive branch than here at the legislative branch, because we don't have appointments there at the Recreation and Park Commission, and so that's where this independent committee appointed by the board comes from.
Well, I believe in balance. Oh, sorry. And as you know, I sit on the Board of Permit Appeals, which is a hybrid commission, mayoral appointees and supervisor appointees. I think that's what works best in your government. We hear the other sides. Here we would be balancing the needs of families with perhaps the expertise of animal care people. I firmly believe that a hybrid commission is the best here, to balance the needs of the families and our citizens by hopefully the mayoral and rec park commissioners or something akin to that, and then expertise in animal care or a supervisoral appointees that will reflect the interests and needs of the animal advocates. I think there needs to be a balance. I encourage debate. I enjoy debate, actually. And I think we've learned many things from the advocate groups, and I hope we can continue to further have discussions. And together we build a zoo that is going to make us all proud. But I don't think turning it entirely into a rescue zoo is that kind of zoo.
Right. Okay. Supervisor Dufty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The discussions I had with the Animal Welfare Commissioners yesterday and the Zoological Society, just to throw it out, is to reformulate the Joint Zoo Committee. As I understand it, there's 6 members of the Joint Zoo Committee, and as I understand it, that those committee meetings, because it's 3 Rec and Park Commissioners and 3 representatives of the Zoological Society, have in fact even been moved to City Hall, which limits the participation of people that are interested in the zoo, and that I believe only Denise Boble and Mark Ennis really attended. It's not been a vibrant committee, and so the suggestion I raised was that if it has been 6 members, that perhaps it'd be 2 members from the Zoological Society, 2 members from the Animal Welfare Commission, 1 appointee from the Board of Supervisors, and then 1 Recreation and Park Commissioner. So you would maintain 6. You would have The two animal welfare commissioners obviously are people who are our appointees that we recommend. Someone that we would appoint from the Board of Supervisors could well be someone from the advocacy community. You'd have the Rec and Park Commission involved and the Zoological Society, and I think that this could be a more diverse and viewpoint body that could help to frame some of the consensus. I also did speak with Mr. Greg Gare.
Nick Podell or
No, you're the gentleman at the zoo.
Bob Jenkins.
Bob Jenkins, I'm sorry. And I did even ask if currently, as I understand it, the reports that are made before the Joint Zoo Committee are verbal reports about animal acquisitions. They simply say we are anticipating that we're going to get a zebra, for example. And so I did ask Mr. Jenkins and if he could prepare some paperwork which would then come before this reformulated Joint Zoo Committee, where you would have to have some justification as to what steps were taken to identify rescue animals or exotic animals that shouldn't have been kept in in private homes and so forth, as a means of garnering trust. Because I do not differ from you or Supervisor Amiano or recognition that there is certainly a strong lack of trust at this point across different constituencies in this situation, and that I don't feel, unfortunately, that Mr. Molinado's tenure was a good one in terms of either creating a morale among the employees or a sense of trust from people who want the zoo to do better. So those are just some suggestions that I made in discussion.
That's helpful. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Peterson.
Thank you.
Madam Commissioner, thank you. I'm going to read some speaker cards. If you hear your name, come on up to the podium. If you can figure out how to make your points quickly, that would be helpful. Otherwise, if there's someone at the podium, you can line up in the middle aisle if you're able. Monique Lippman, Jill Hetherington, Lloyd Krull, Amrit Khalsa, Mark Innes. In any order. It doesn't have to be in the order that I've read them. If you're first up to the microphone, you get to go first. Welcome.
Okay. Hello. My name is Monique Lippman. I am 17 years old, and I am fifth generation born and raised in San Francisco. And currently, I volunteer in the Animal Resource Center as a junior zoologist and in the education building as a Talk on the Wild Side volunteer. In the past 4 years, I have also volunteered at the Children's Zoo as an adult volunteer and on Nature Trail. Aside from volunteering, some of my earliest memories are at the zoo, such as my 3rd birthday party. The zoo has not only been a job and a childhood memory to me, but also a common ground between me and my father, who is currently a board member. Mostly through my volunteering experience, I witnessed and practiced the good works the zoo incorporates into its message of connecting the public with nature, conserving resources, and caring about animals and our world. Daily, I see children and adults making the conscious decision to change their ways to be more green because of our efforts at the zoo. With that in mind, I think it is cowardly to opt to change the zoo, screw the freaking time limit, opt to change the zoo, simply because the media is putting pressure on the situation. I understand that the zoo is not perfect, and...
Thank you, Ms. Lippman. Next speaker, please.
My name is Mark Ennis. I'm a resident of San Francisco. I think this legislation should be moved directly to the Board of Supervisors. Over 15 years, the Zoological Society has created a lack of trust in their management style. This is not, my comments are not directed at the keepers or volunteers, just the management, the Zoological Society. I believe this ordinance is needed so that the city of San Francisco, the residents, can have trust in the Zoological Society again to put animal welfare first. At this time, it's not. The Oversight Committee should be an independent entity appointed by the supervisors. That would be a great step for the Board of Supervisors to show the residents of San Francisco that animal care at the zoo, the animal welfare at the zoo, is a priority for the Board of Supervisors too. I go to the joint zoo committee meetings and the Park and Rec meetings, and it's nothing but a rubber stamp committee. They don't ask the right questions. If I had more time, I could give you some specific examples. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ennis. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Jill Hetherington. When you walk through the zoo, who do you see? You see families with children. Families with children. There are 25,000 members of the zoo, and most are families with young children. I'm the mother of 3 sons, an 8-month-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and we visit the zoo several times a month as a distinct part of our children's learning, development, and experience. I would not be inclined to continue visiting the zoo if it were turned into a rescue zoo facility. It seems a sad view of the world to only expose children to hurt or ill animals versus healthy, vibrant ones. When I recently learned that the direction of the zoo was still under consideration for dramatic change, I contacted many families to show their support. Because it's summer and many families are on vacations or don't have daycare to be here under such short notice, these families I contacted expressed extreme shock and seemed unaware that the zoo's operations could change to a rescue facility primarily so quickly. As you look at what is best for... Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hetherington. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Amrit Khalsa. I'm a San Francisco resident. I've grown up at the zoo. I've been volunteering for the past 5 years. And every day I go to the zoo, I see kids learning, I see families enjoying watching the animals from faraway places. This is a unique experience that the zoo provides. I do not want to see the zoo change. I've invested so much into it and gotten so much back. I can't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have the Animal Resource Center to not only teach myself about animals that need help, but to teach other people. Without breeding programs, I know that there's a lot that this particular legislature allows for, but San Francisco garter snakes aren't on there. What if there's another animal that comes up that we need to help now? We can't do that if we can't have the opportunity to take in animals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thompson. Lloyd Kroll, Tricia Mager, Jiska Van Wyk, Seth Wong, Ethan Kaminsky.
Morning, Supervisor. Afternoon. My name is Lloyd Crail. I'm here to voice my enthusiastic, complete support of the legislation before you. As a resident, a voter, and a taxpayer, I find the behavior of the Zoological Society offensive. This organization has thumbed their nose at our elected officials and a board-appointed commission empowered by the people of San Francisco to oversee our animals' welfare and control, as well as completely ignoring the city's budget analysts' recommendations. Obviously, the oversight that is in place now due to the current events is not working. The grotto that the tiger escaped was looked at by AZA, and nothing was brought up at the time. When they say that the money is not overflowing for a bear in the bear grotto, I think $100 million spent in the last 10 years is overflowing. They had plenty of chances to put that money. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Trisha Marr, and these are my 2 children, Hunter and Henry Marr. And we are residents of San Francisco and frequent visitors of the zoo. It's actually our favorite activity and place to go. And we are actually coming to support the zoo. It's our favorite place to go. And each time we go, the boys learn so much more. And the children's zoo is amazing, where they can learn and pet and take care of these animals. And I think the last time we went, we saw these monkeys actually put on a song and show for us and held exhibit for all these people to enjoy. And I just think that I asked my children today what they wanted to do, and they wanted to go see the tigers and the lions and the bears and the giraffes. And I don't think if this became a rescue zoo, we would not attend, and it would not have the draw that it has right now, and we would not get the education that these children are getting right now. And so this is such a miraculous place. I hope we keep what it is now and keep going forward with this vision. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Marr. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. My name is Jacqueline Texier. I work with Wildlife Center of Silicon Valley. Briefly then, I ask that you co-sponsor this ordinance. I visited the zoo myself many times, and as a lover of animals, I realized that elephants require 50 miles to roam per day. The elephant I saw at the zoo was on concrete, very unnatural. This is not a healthy, vibrant animal. A zoo that places animal welfare as a priority and addresses larger societal need for placement of confiscated or rescued exotic animals will show to the world San Francisco's progressive values and commitment to the humane treatment of their animals. Also, this will serve as an enlightened model for zoos throughout the country and instill pride in the residents of our fair city. I have lived here my whole life. I'm very proud of San Francisco, and I would very much support a rescue facility. In fact, many of my wealthy friends would more likely visit the zoo if it were more of a rescue and conservation facility. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Chiska Van Wyk, and I've been the Director of Development for the San Francisco Zoo for over 3 years. I've been an environmental fundraiser for 23 years. If the zoo becomes a rescue facility, there will be a dramatic decline in revenues. I can say that for certainty because of several different reasons. Foundations grant the zoo a total of $500,000 each year. Their sole interest is in supporting educational outreach to underserved communities of students and children who might not necessarily be exposed to animals and inspire caring for nature. One major foundation in the Bay Area, who's been a loyal supporter of the zoo, has already called and said that they will give us a grant for Nature Trail this year, but will not continue funding of the zoo if it becomes a rescue facility. We have about $2.5 million that's raised from individuals who give us $1,000 to $100,000. Most of those people are board members who've indicated that they, sorry.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Ethan Kaminsky. I'm a teen volunteer over at the San Francisco Zoo. And I'd just like to say that education and conservation are great services that the zoo provides for the community. A lot of kids in San Francisco would not have an opportunity to see wild animals without the zoo. They would be limited to pigeons, dogs, cats, those sorts of things.
Grizzly bears and polar bears, maybe.
In this country, in cities, we tend to lose contact with nature, and it's a tremendous service to be able to go to the zoo and see healthy wild animals in as close to in a reasonable facsimile of their natural environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. Seth Wong, Karen Smoot, Amanda Wong, Dean Shearer, Melody Lasher.
Hi, I'm Seth Timothy Wong, a volunteer at San Francisco Zoo, 3 years, going on my 4th. And I just want to bring up education again. I don't know if you want to look at that or what, but it's been established. I don't know if you were listening before, but we are going to lose money, and that's what our education programs build from. That's how they grow. That goes to all the maintenance, docents, Talk on the Wild Side volunteers, Nature Trail, all the programs that reach out to children. And I don't know what you're thinking, but those kids that were here earlier, they're the next generation. They're the kids that we reach out to. They're the kids that are going to go off and change the world. And all the volunteers, you want a good example of devoted volunteers? Look at the frickin' first row right here. Look at the people back there. We're reaching out. We just want you to know, just to think of us when you're making your decisions. I don't know what's going to go down, but in any of your decisions or changes that you're going to make, keep us in mind, keep the success of our education programs in mind, and, you know, keep in mind the children in San Francisco and the next generation. Thank you.
Next speaker, but you should know that pretty much I think about kids all the time, at least in the middle of the night. I'm thinking about kids. They're waking me up. Next speaker.
It's hard to follow up after him, but 7 months ago we had a tragic event at the zoo. Only 7 months ago. And what happens to the zoo? Why don't we get a chance to recover? And I'm going to be very short. I propose that we put less time into new legislation and more time in helping the zoo recover. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Wong, and I am a second generation born and raised in San Francisco. I started volunteering at the San Francisco Zoo 4 years ago at the age of 12, and the zoo has had a major and lasting impact on my life. The San Francisco Zoo has a wonderful education program that reaches out to both youth and the elderly, as well as everyone in between. We take part in so many great projects that are geared toward the interests of our animal brethren, and it makes little sense to change it now. I've looked over a copy of the ordinance presented before this committee of supervisors and have seen that it restricts the variety of endangered species we are allowed to house. What will become of our black rhinos, a critically endangered species that is not included in this ordinance, who has been one of the most successful breeders in captivity, giving birth to 14 calves? I find this ordinance extremely vague in wording. Although it has true intentions, I'm afraid of what changes it will bring about. I'm scared of losing this beautiful zoo I've come to know and love all my life. I'm afraid to honorable supervisors of the uncertain future this edict will bring.
My name is Karen Smoot, and I've been volunteering at the San Francisco Zoo for 4 summers, and I don't want to see any of the volunteer programs go, because I think they deserve the funding, and I think animal welfare is always the first priority, and I think we have so many dedicated volunteers that really want things to continue that have been going on, and there are many worthy things that the zoo has been dedicating its time to, and I think we need to expose city people to wildlife and make them care. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dean Shear, and I'm in Nature Trail and Zoo Crew. And Zoo Crew, we don't work in the zoo for Zoo Crew. We do go out and we do wildlife restoration, and we fix up Lake Merced and clean it out of trash. And really, we're learning so much in Nature Trail about animals and teaching so many people. And really, if you pass this, then we're really going to stop that. A lot of what the zoo does well right now, it won't do. It will just be a zoo of basically iguanas, dogs, cats. A lot of people aren't going to come. Technically, if I was just coming to San Francisco, I wouldn't do that. And that just gives us less money to help the animals that we're helping now. So really, if we support this, it's going to do more bad than good.
Thank you. Melody Lasher, Georgianne Windergren, Irene Donovan Martin, Roger Hops, Alua Rubidoux.
I'd just like to say that I would be proud for our city zoo to rescue animals. There's a lot of animals that do need rescue, and I think it's a really good thing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Alika Rubidoux. I was here at the last meeting. I was born and basically raised in San Francisco. I had a longer speech prepared, but due to the time restraints, I'm not going to be able to get around to all the topics that I was going to discuss. But I would like to bring to attention the fact that I'm shocked that people want to put all these funds into recreating the zoo entirely, but will not put those same funds into the zoo that is already there. Despite accusations, we are a rescue zoo, and we do not look at our animals as a stamp collection or a coin collection, as was brought up in the last meeting. I would like to see the zoo continue as it is now, changing lives that are human and otherwise. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
My name is Georgianne Wedegren. I'm a 40-year resident of the city, and I've been going to the zoo for a good many of those years. I'm very much opposed to this legislation. I think it adds unnecessary layers of bureaucracy to the decision-making processes. I think it is very short-sighted, and I think it ignores lessons from the past. If we ignore our history, well, we know what happens. I think that this legislation seeks to create an institution that's very different from the zoo we have. It's not good. It doesn't seek to improve or provide any benefit to the animals that we have. It limits the animals that we could obtain. And I would offer a challenge. If you really are serious about wanting to have a dedicated rescue facility, then why not go somewhere else and build one? Why do you have to destroy an institution that exists that provides educational opportunities?
Thank you very much, but I think that the answer is that the city owns the zoo. Next speaker, please.
A rescue zoo would likely result in the Zoological Society ceasing to manage the zoo. The management would then revert back to the city, and many of us remember what that was like. The Zoological Society funded $9.3 million last year, including $5.6 million to support daily operations and $4 million to support renovation of exhibits or capital expenditures. Without the Zoological Society, the zoo would not have these funds, and the city would end up funding virtually all of the zoo's expenses. Fundraising would be difficult for the city because people are reluctant to give to city projects due to the red tape and long delays. I only have to point to the city's hippo and rhino exhibit renovation project, which is now in its second year and isn't even half completed. Or worse, the stables in Golden Gate Park, which have been closed for renovation since September 30th, 2001. Every major zoo in the country, from the Bronx Zoo to the LA Zoo, is managed by a zoological society for this reason. Thank you very much.
Roger Hoppus. I'm curator of the Children's Zoo. I'm also a former member of the Animal Welfare Commission. For 30 years, I've been working in environmental education for kids. And part of that, as a primary goal, is connecting kids with nature. Some of the graduates of that are people sitting behind me here. But we have many, many, many more kids in San Francisco that have no connection with nature at all. And one of the things that I think that we've lost sight of in this discussion is that in terms of animals at the zoo, they are portrayed as representatives of a natural world. Whereas a rescue animal comes to us with a whole different set of messages that would be very hard for us, I think, to counter in an education awareness program that would allow us to continue to portray those animals in a natural way, and most importantly, get those kids excited about nature so that they grow up being green adults. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me read some more cards after this speaker. Anthony Brown, Amy Gaffin, Bob Jenkins, Sherilyn Harrington, Laura Eagleston.
Hi, my name is Irene Donovan Martin, and over 19 years of my life, I'm very proud to see all these young kids that I've worked with growing up at the zoo. I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, I'm a professional. The world today is going green. It's a natural balance, and it's not all about taking care of a rescue animal. We do love rescue animals. Most of us have rescue animals, and they're wonderful animals. But also, what about the natural species around us? The children of the world today need to see that natural. They need to see the resources. They need to educate. They need to come and have an open playground to learn all about what they're going to be doing for us in the future, because it's their world, and we need to teach them as best as we can about those creatures and those animals involving the people. I'm very proud of everyone, and thank you for listening to us and helping us with that.
Thank you, Ms. Donovan Martin. Next speaker.
My name is Anthony Brown. I'm an animal keeper at the zoo. I take care of the penguins right now.
the penguins aren't going to be a part of this plan. Not sure if you guys are aware, May of 1985, first Magellanic penguin ever to be hatched in captivity, right here in San Francisco. Since then, 203 others have. We are the zoo when it comes to Magellanic penguins. The De Boersma, who's the prominent field researcher for Magellanic penguins in the wild, uses data from our collection to help lobby South American governments in saving Magellanic penguins. I also have some rescue animals in my collection that, like as other people have pointed out, we currently serve a rescue role. Animal welfare is very important to me, and it should always be important to the zoo, and it is. It seems like a good idea would be to have someone take care or watch over animals and make sure they're being well cared for, and we currently have that. They're the animal keepers at the zoo. It's upsetting that my time's over, but I guess that's what you're going to do. It'll be remembered. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Amy Gaffin, and I've come here to speak on behalf of the zoo. I actually come from another state, and one of the top 3 reasons why I decided to move to this city from New York was because of this zoo and because of the educational programs that they have. And basically because of the programs like the Animal Resource Center, like Nature Trail, and all of the other conservation actions that we have, they've really inspired me and changed my life. And all the people standing here talking about us not having animal welfare as our top priority is just obscene, because you guys are not the ones that are at the zoo every day working with these animals, and you don't know what kind of environment they're living in or what they do on our lives and what we do for their lives. And, you know, it seems like a lot of times here it just seems like an agenda that needs to be pushed, but it is a complex issue. And if you look at everyone that has shown up here, the teens, the volunteers, adults, staff, people have given up their time to want to support the zoo.
Thank you, Ms. Gaffin. Next speaker, please.
I have a question for Chris Daly. A minute ago you said to somebody that you'd heard the argument, but I don't really think you're listening to it. Like, you're listening to her over there where she says she can bring her rich friends in, but you're not listening to the lady with her 2 kids. I mean, what is up with that? Like, you're not listening. You're just not.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Laura Eagleston. I don't know if you guys know very much about conservation, but these animals cannot just rely on breeding programs. The biggest way that we're going to save our Earth's animals and biodiversity is through education. And when children come to San Francisco Zoo, they can go into the children's zoo and pet animals and experience them first on. And when they grow up, they're going to want to take care of these animals. And when they come to the biofact carts and feel the fur of a snow leopard or a tiger, they're going to want to save those animals when they grow up. And I think you guys should really listen to that, because conservation isn't just going to rely on breeding programs. Education is the only thing that can really save our Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eagleston. After Ms. Jenkins, we have William Beach, Shay Morris, Gail Sicchia, Nora Gibson.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. It's my pleasure to speak with you. I'm Bob Jenkins, Director of Animal Care and Conservation at the zoo. I have 2 very quick messages. The first deals with AZA accreditation and the potential of losing accreditation for the San Francisco Zoo. I believe I'm the only person here today who has been an AZA board member, an AZA accreditation commissioner, chairman of the Government Affairs Committee, and an active, in addition to Roger Hoppus, an active inspector for the Accreditation Commission. I'm here to tell you that this issue of shelter, rescue facility, sanctuary has been debated both at the board and the Accreditation Commission level many times. It does not meet, nor will it meet, the way AZA defines it today, what a zoo is. The mission of the San Francisco Zoo today fulfills that AZA accreditation question. The last thought I would like to leave with you. I'm not opposed to rescue facilities. I'm not opposed to rescue animals. We already have a significant number at our zoo. But in your efforts to do right, don't cripple an institution that's already doing right.
Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins.
Sorry.
If this conversion was taking place and the AZA decided to remove accreditation, what would operationally, how would that affect you?
Ramifications would be is that we would have to cease participation in approximately 25 species survival programs. That is in addition to another 70 animal care and animal conservation programs that the zoo participates in today. In addition, we probably have between 15 and 20 individuals who are active participants on the management committees, serve as population management coordinators for various populations, stud bookkeepers, and serve on these committees. They would all have to be let go from these obligations. We would no longer have the input that we would need into worldwide conservation, which is what this zoo is all about.
Is there no other way to be involved in worldwide conservation than through the AZA?
There are many other ways for a facility like the San Francisco Zoo that has the mission that it has. The AZA today is the best way to broach through that network. And the reason for that is, in the USA today, there's over close to 4,800 licensed exhibitors in the United States. AZA today only accredits 225 of those. That's the top 4% of those institutions.
Well, Mr. Jenkins, where does the AZA get their authority from? Are they created through federal?
They get their authority from their members.
Through federal legislation?
No.
So could we start our own association to promote the rescue mission, to promote the conservation of certain select species of animals?
That would certainly be available to you, yes.
Great. I think we should consider doing that. Thanks, Mr. Jenkins. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Nora Gibson. I'm a third-generation San Franciscan. I have two children who attend the zoo more than weekly.
Why don't you start over?
Okay. My name is Nora Gibson. I'm a third-generation San Franciscan. I have two children who attend the zoo with myself and my husband more than weekly. We enjoy the programs that the toddler programs are providing right now, and all I would like to say is I had prepared statements that I'm now going to submit in writing. I would urge everybody who had prepared statements that are not going to be able to speak or who are not able to get everything out to send them in writing. What I'd like to say to you today is please do your homework. It does not appear to me from the statements you have made today that you have any idea what this legislation is going to do. You don't seem to have an idea or a handle on how it's going to impact the private funding that is a major source of the zoo today. You don't seem to have a handle on how the AZA non-accreditation is going to affect the zoo. I would just ask that before this legislation is passed, you at least get a grip on how those things are going to be affecting the zoo as it exists today.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Next speaker, please.
I'm Nick Podell, Chairman of the Zoological Society. I'm going to address my comments to Supervisor Amiano and Dufty. The Zoological Society did not participate at all in the drafting of this legislation. We found tremendous common ground with the Animal Welfare Commission on the essence of the legislation on animal welfare and sought to continue to discuss how to broaden our scope of public participation in the oversight of the zoo and participation from all stakeholders. We did not get there. Now I feel like this legislation is being railroaded, just like Carl Friedman was railroaded out of this room. And I'd like to ask Supervisors Dufty and Amiano.
I'm sorry, sir, but I didn't ask Mr. Friedman to leave the room. What I asked Mr. Friedman to do was to address the topic at hand.
You cut him off, sir, just like you're cutting me off now.
I'm the chair of the committee. I can provide direction and ask for folks to give the committee information that we need to make an informed decision. I also probably have several hundred people coming in for a 1:30 special order. And if you're coming in for the 1:30 special order, we're going to get through this item. We're going to get through this item as expeditiously as possible with the information that we need to make a decision at the end of this item. Then we're going to have our 1:30 special order dealing with, among other things, the decline in the African American population, the precipitous decline that we've seen over the last few decades. And sir, if you can address your comments to the whole committee, I would appreciate it. Thank you. That was not docked from your time.
The legislation is incomplete and is not appropriate to move forward to the total board at this time. It should at least be continued for further discussion with the Animal Welfare Commission. It is totally inappropriate to go forward now.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Duffy has a question for you.
So, Nick, when we talked yesterday, you related that I had a conversation when you came into my office some time ago, and I sort of suggested that you do some things, and I would appreciate it if you could just briefly relate what you shared with me yesterday.
Well, when we first met after the December 25th death of Tatiana, and we came to tell everybody who we were at the Zoological Society, you told me you were interested in the employees at the institution. How was everyone doing at the institution? And I went back and asked and was told an earful, and I was yelled at for an hour about lack of communication as a central problem at the zoo. And I went back the next day and got yelled at for another hour and was told continued to be told that the communication was a central problem at the zoo. And since then, we've been pushing and pushing to increase internal communication first, to heal ourselves, and to reach out to a broader community to improve communication, to get our mission and message out, which we're just beginning to do. Unfortunately, the former executive director wouldn't go along with the program, and he left. And we've brought in Ms. Peterson to accelerate the program of communication both internally and externally to get a broader understanding of the role of the zoo out, not just of our own internal communication, but in external communication. I participated in all 4 of the meetings with the advocates and had common cause and common ground, I would say, on 80% with your Animal Welfare Commission. I did not find common ground and butted heads repeatedly with the In Defense of Animals, who drafted this legislation for Commissioner Daley. I'd have to say that when I talked about biodiversity, they didn't want to hear about it. When I talk about sustainability, they want to hear about it. They want to talk about animal welfare. They want to talk about individual animals' welfare. They don't want to talk about species preservation. They're only concerned with individual animal welfare. This is a single-purpose legislation that misses all of the nuances and complications of what's going on out at the zoo that you've hired the society to manage. This is a myopic piece of legislation that's inappropriate.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to state briefly that as an animal keeper at San Francisco Zoo, if animal welfare were not our highest priority, I would not be there. This is my 3rd zoo to work at in 20 years of the profession. I have an advanced degree in endangered species management. I came here because of San Francisco Zoo's commitment to conservation. I don't think that conservation should be ignored. I've heard doublespeak that we can both be only a rescue zoo and commit to conservation, and I know from my experience that that's not true. We are right now a multifaceted organization with conservation, animal welfare, education being our priorities. Now we're being limited to one scope. I believe that this will not be possible. 15 years I've participated in the Conference of Zoos Committing to Conservation, and I think that this would be a very embarrassing step backward for the city of San Francisco to turn their back on conservation of threatened and endangered species.
Can I ask you a question? Because I've been trying for a month and a half to have someone make me understand how a rescue zoo in this legislation, which provides for the breeding of certain animals on the list, how this runs counter to the mission of conservation. And other than the argument that there may be less money brought in because of the attractions at the zoo in terms of money available for education and for investing in conservation outside of the geographic barriers of the zoo, I have not been able to figure out an argument about how this legislation compromises the mission of conservation. And I'm wondering if you maybe can do that.
I can try to help you with that. Finances aside, the wording that I focused in on is that no animals will come into San Francisco Zoo unless they are coming from a rescue situation. It says you can do your breeding programs, a few specific ones on the side, but it's impossible to genetically participate in these programs without being able to interchange with other zoos the animals required for that breeding. It's essential for that.
But if the legislation allows for breeding of those specific animals, you're saying that you still couldn't do
Well,
it?
what I read didn't just say did say that the breeding would be possible, but the interchange would not be. That was the wording that I saw in the ordinance.
You know,
The
I mean,
interchange
perhaps we can clarify that in the legislation, but I think when we say that the breeding is possible, it's the way that you do the breeding of those animals. But, we can take a look at the drafting of that. Thank you. Next, after the next speaker, Syed Rizvi, George Diaz-Canseco, Barbara Palmer, Kelly Gomez, Corey Hallman.
Hi, I'm Kelly Gomez, and I've been an animal keeper at the San Francisco Zoo for 6 years, and I am devoted to these animals and my profession. If this legislation is passed, the zoo's conservation message will be lost. The animals in the proposed rescue facility could include animals confiscated from private collectors that are unknown in origin or inbred. We could also lose our accreditation, which means that we no longer participate in their breeding programs for threatened species. This would be a detriment to the wild animal populations and to the developing countries where the majority of these threatened species live. Habitats are in trouble because of human interference, and as a result, animals are disappearing at an alarming rate. There are many successful breeding and reintroduction programs, and if we don't help the populations as a whole, there won't be any individuals to cherish. As the urban world expands, zoos bring people closer to nature. We are all here because we love and care for animals. Animals evoke feelings of reverence and a sense of responsibility. These feelings are often instilled in us because of a childhood experience we've had with an animal. If we don't continue pursuing our message of conservation and education, we will lose our opportunity to engage and encourage empathy in our youth.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Next speaker, please.
I'm Syed Rizvi. I heard a lot about education in the zoo. I cannot see how education in zoo connected. Ask a small child where the food come from. He says supermarket. Ask a child where the tiger belongs to. He'll say zoo. So that's kind of education we get. I think it is not education. It's a brainwashing of small children.
Thank you, Mr. Rizvi. Next speaker, please.
Oh, I'm George Diaz-Canseco. I was born and raised. I did a list. I went on the internet, and there's like at least 36 wild animal sanctuaries. I don't know if you checked that out. And couldn't you do that? Couldn't you call to see if they would be happy to be rescued rather than San Francisco? Because I've been to the San Francisco Zoo yesterday, and I'll have to say the lemur, fantastic. You should just check it out. But like I said, I went in and I went into the internet, and there's like at least dozens. And why don't you just call them and see if they ask, because they specialize in rescue animals and all that, welfare. It's just an idea. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Corey Hallman. I'm an animal keeper at the San Francisco Zoo. This is the third zoo I've worked at. Previously, I worked at the San Diego Zoo, the Tulsa Zoo. The San Francisco Zoo is one of the best zoos I've ever worked at. Animal welfare is the top priority there. I work in the primate section. I don't think you understand that we have a limited amount of resources. So if you want to bring in rescue primates, the type of knowledge and expertise it's going to take to manage those animals. And if we're unable to participate in species survival plans and breeding only with rescue animals, exhibits such as the lemur forest exhibit the man was just talking about would not be there, would not be available, which I work at. Those animals are shared collectively through other zoos to keep the genetic pool as diverse as possible. Otherwise, you're just going to have inbreeding and eventually turn into a circus. That's what you're trying to create here, is a sanctuary full of circus animals. I don't understand why this isn't getting through to you. I am the one that's been the expert in this field. I'm the one that's committed my whole life, my education, my career to this field, and I find it rather disturbing that a small group of activists are telling me otherwise.
Lisa Hallicroft, Harrison Adele, Lindsay Zurich, Julie Calkins, Janet Locke, Elise Gardner. If you didn't hear your name called, that's because people were clapping. Lisa Hallicroft, Harrison Adele, Lindsay Vurick, Julie Coffers, Janet Locke, Elise Gardner. I think all members of the committee now know which part of the room supports which speakers and which part of the room supports the other speakers, so you don't have to applaud. We can just imagine it, and then maybe this will run quicker. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Lisa Holcroft, and I'm a Mill Valley resident, but I work in San Francisco. I've been in the Bay Area for approximately 20 years. I just wanted to go back to the beginning when Mr. Friedman said that the zoo was in support of a rescue facility wherever practical and possible. I am on IDA's mailing list, and it seems to me that there's just rescue opportunities, abundance, all species. There doesn't seem to be any problem with finding an opportunity to rescue animals. I myself have a dog. When I first got him, he was extremely decrepit. You just couldn't look at him without your heart bleeding for him. And for the people that are expressing concern for children seeing animals in the zoo that are unhealthy, my friend's children, they absolutely adore my dog. They have followed his progress. It took about 6 months, but he is just a vibrant, healthy animal now. And I don't think exposing children to this kind of thing is unhealthy. It's a good thing.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Elise Gardner. This is a brilliant move forward. We have a social obligation as a society to provide homes and education. I hear a lot of fear of loss today, fear of change, and this is a brilliant opportunity to create new educational programs. What are we teaching our children? To go to zoos to see animals in unnatural settings. We have an opportunity to bring our children into awareness of what responsible human citizenship on this earth is. If this will accomplish simultaneously relief for many otherwise displaced animals because of our human lifestyle, there will be a period of change where we need to create new educational programs. The volunteers, man, can you imagine how great you will feel when you're volunteering and educating people about helping animals? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner. Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
I'm Janet Locke. I'm a mother of children, and I am also a supporter of the zoo in the sense that I am supporting its improvement. I think all the educational programs that it currently has will continue and get better when we can introduce the concept of caring and compassion. I encourage the ordinance to go through, and that I think it will actually enhance the opportunity for raising money, because we will be able to reach out to new sources of money. I personally donate regularly to 5 sanctuaries, but I don't donate to the zoo. And I think there are other people like me who would also contribute to the sanctuary. So I think it will be everything that it currently is and more. And for people who are concerned about where we will get animals, it seems that the animals who are in need of rescue, like there are more tigers in backyards in Texas than there are in Asia. We can save some of those.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Vurick, and I support the ordinance. I think it's a small step in the right direction. It basically codifies Mr. Friedman's list, or most of his list, so I really don't understand the objection to it, and I can't imagine that it would do anything but enhance educational opportunities in the same way as sanctuaries do. And I'm like the last speaker, I'm a philanthropist, and I donate exclusively to sanctuaries, animal rights, and animal protection organizations. And I've been hesitant to donate to zoos. This might be one of the first zoos that I would do a philanthropic activity with. I also, Supervisor Duffy's suggestion of reformulation to maybe bring of the committee that does oversight to possibly bring more daylight to the process. I think that would be, it sounds like an improvement over the current one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my
My name is Julie Ruffers, and my vision is the vision
You can
that
grab the microphone.
Sorry. My vision is the vision that would make animal welfare a priority. And I just want to say I brought a copy with me of the 2000 performance audit of the San Francisco Zoo. And I just want to say, very little was ever done to make the corrections that were recommended. And I just see this as more stonewalling by zoo officials so that they can just do the same old, and not make the changes that are necessary. I just am advocating for you to go ahead and pass this ordinance. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. After Harrison Adele, we have Lisa Wyatt, Pat Cuviello, Helder Constantino, Jennifer Blum.
Good morning. I'm Harrison Adele. I'm a curator of birds at San Francisco Zoo. I did prepare a written statement, but I would rather take this time to address your questions regarding conservation programs in zoos. As it's been mentioned, there are a lot of sanctuaries in California and in other states, and as it's also been mentioned, there are more tigers in backyards in Texas than there are in the wild in some places. There are also more Siberian tigers in breeding programs in American zoos than there are in Siberia. What you'll find, though, is if you survey those sanctuaries, the vast majority of the animals in those sanctuaries are not available to breeding programs. They can't be managed because we don't know the genetics of where they came from. So if the goal is to create a program that is conservation, education, and welfare based, it's impossible to have a conservation basis in cooperation with other facilities if this is a rescue zoo and we have no say in where animals are coming from to contribute to those conservation programs. Welfare is something that's a high priority for all of the stakeholders, and nobody's arguing that. I think that we've talked about it enough times today. Nobody wants to create a system where welfare is not a high priority. What the zoo is asking is that we be allowed to continue making conservation and education priorities.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Next speaker, please.
Please pass this ordinance. We need to pass this ordinance for the sake of the animals. I don't know what they are telling you docents, but obviously your management should be shamed for telling you that a rescue animal is less deserving than any other zoo animal. People that love animals love all animals and want those in dire situations to be rescued to a safe place. Why would you think that your volunteer jobs would be affected from helping more animals? For this to be the first rescue zoo, the donations will far exceed those that came before. I challenge all of you to stick your neck out when you get an opportunity to help be part of and help rescue an animal.
Hi, my name is Pat Cuviello, and I've been a supporter and critic of the zoo for the last 25 years. And I have heard the zoo say over and over, animal welfare is the priority. But talk is cheap, and actions speak louder than words. Anyone who walks through the zoo and knows anything about the species kept there can see that the animal welfare is not the priority. The Rec and Park Commission has had their chance to provide oversight for animal welfare at the zoo. The Joint Zoo Committee has had their chance to provide oversight for animal welfare at the zoo. Another committee that includes members of these rubber stamp committees is a waste of time and resources and a sure way to ensure that animals at the zoo will continue to be kept in the same deprived conditions they are kept in now. The animals forced to live at the zoo need change, not more of the same.
Good afternoon. My name is Helder Constantino, representing Animal Defenders International. ADI wholeheartedly supports Supervisors Chris Daly's proposal to transform the zoo into a rescue zoo. To my knowledge, San Francisco will be the first major city in the world to take this progressive step. It will make the San Francisco Zoo a model for the rest of the world. ADI has a long history in rescuing animals in distress, including lions, tigers, and primates. We always experience difficulties to relocate animals in the types of facilities that they deserve. This ordinance could be one of the response to this issue, and I very much hope that it will be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Jennifer Blum, Sarah Holmsen, Tara Zuardo, Carol Huick, Vicky Tuarto.
My name is Jennifer Bloom, and I'm a proud and long-term resident of the beautiful city of San Francisco. I fully support the ordinance to transform the San Francisco Zoo into a rescue zoo. Speaking from experience, I can say that there are so many animals desperately in need who would greatly benefit from the facilities at the San Francisco Zoo. No one is advocating to close the zoo. Housing rescued animals at the zoo will only foster a deeper sense of compassion and appreciation for animals by the public, especially the children who observe and learn the stories of these animals. That is what leads to understanding conservation of our resources and animals around the world. I fully support this groundbreaking ordinance and sincerely commend you for your dedication and compassion toward animals.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Sarah Holmson, and I would just like to express my complete support of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Vicky Torto, and I would like to support this ordinance because I feel deeply for the animals, and I know that a lot of animals need help, and this is a great city to have such a sanctuary, let's say.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Carol Hauk, and I just came to the first meeting, coming to the second meeting, just to express my gratitude for your idea and support the ordinance. And can't believe that all these young docents think that they're going to lose by encompassing more. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me read some more names after the next speaker. Karen Snook, Anita Carswell, Coco Hall, Callista Barter, Caroline Nacella.
Hi, my name is Tara Zuardo. I grew up here in San Francisco. I'm currently the co-director of the Student Animal Legal Defense Fund, and I've also worked for wildlife organizations for the last 5 years. I'm here again to request that the board approve the transition for the zoo to become a rescue-focused facility. One thing that I would like to point out is that the facility is much more likely to receive funding as a sanctuary than as a zoo facility, in my experience. And in addition, the transition would only strengthen education and conservation goals. This is absolutely the best decision for animal welfare, for biodiversity conservation, and for the public safety, given the zoo's track record. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Karen Snook. I was also born in San Francisco. I'm currently the Executive Director of In Defense of Animals and completely support this ordinance. I'm kind of amazed that these people behind me think they're coming from a place of extreme fear, and I can understand that change is scary, but I believe this is a very important and very good change. Two very quick things. I remember as a child I came to San Francisco Zoo, and I want to speak for all those children who left the zoo crying because they saw these animals in cement pens. They saw these wounded animals. They saw these animals who were depressed and sad, and they went home and said, "I don't want to go there anymore, Mom." And as a person who's looking at this ordinance, I'm saying we absolutely need to have an independent oversight body because the oversight bodies we have currently have brought us to the position we are at today, which is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Anita Carswell, and I strongly, strongly support this ordinance. Chris Daly, I want to thank you so much for taking this on. I think the zoo's history speaks for itself. This zoo has never done anything unless absolutely forced to. They claim their number one priority is the animals, when actually it seems to be their snack bar. So quite honestly, I strongly, strongly hope that this goes through and that you vote yes on it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carswell. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Caroline Nacella, and I'm a Bay Area resident. I'd just like to say that while I know the young people here are well-meaning, it's a shame that they've been so thoroughly indoctrinated by the zoo's fear tactics. Proponents of this bill are not trying to destroy the zoo. We are not devaluing the education component of the zoo. On the contrary, it is our belief that prioritizing animal welfare at the zoo will expand its potential to educate, just as it will bolster the zoo's fundraising ability. Equally important, this landmark ordinance will ensure that the San Francisco Zoo meets the desperate need to place rescued exotics. So it's a win-win bill. It's good for the zoo visitors, it's good for the zoo animals, for the city of San Francisco, and it's going to be good for the zoo. Kids, I appreciate your passion. I know that you love animals, but I urge you to not believe everything that the zoo is telling you.
Thank you very much. After the next speaker, Maria Ralph, Sally Stevens, Ackleen Campbell, Natasha Keene, Danny Gilbert.
Hi, my name is Callista Barter, and I want to support this ordinance and thank you, Supervisor Daley, for introducing it. As a fundraiser myself for a prominent nonprofit organization, I'm confident that turning the zoo into a place of sanctuary for horribly abused animals and into a place of education about conservation and respecting wildlife will not only increase the pool of donors, but will increase the happiness that donors feel by giving to the zoo, because they know that they're giving to bettering the life of these animals, from bringing them from tiny cages where they're starved, beaten, and neglected to a space where they're happy. And I want to assure all of you that some of the most prominent animals in roadside zoos and private zoos are lions, tigers, bears, chimps, all these animals that you think are not going to be there anymore. I also want to support everybody who's saying that this will only increase the education opportunities at the zoo. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barter. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Ralph. I've been a member of Zoo 2 for over 5 years, raising money for the zoo. I'm also a strong animal advocate. And what I hear here is that we need a strong vision for the zoo. People talk about a program here, a program there, but as individuals, as people of the city, as citizens, we rally around a strong vision. And the Sanctuary Zoo would give us that vision. We would all fight for a common cause for these animals to make their lives better, to rescue animals in need. Everybody is on the side of animals here, but there's no strong vision guiding them in the correct direction to go in. And this is what this ordinance would do, and I strongly urge you to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ralph. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Natasha Keen, and I am strongly supported the ordinance. And I was born and raised in Russia, and I want to share a little experience with you. Whatever I've seen in Moscow Zoo, I see similar things here when I arrived in California. So, and I just strongly believe that zoos need strong change, and it's a good opportunity to do the change right now. So, and it's people are very slow to believe in change, and I think people are so scared of change, and I think it would be difficult for some people, especially those people who work for the zoo and who is volunteering right now, because they don't know what will happen in the future. But I think change always to the best, and that is a lot of examples for it. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keaton. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Sally Stevens. I'm the chair of the Animal Control Welfare Commission. I was part of the negotiations that went on, and I just wanted to say that, frankly, both sides didn't really listen to one another. It wasn't all one side or the other, probably because of all the past animosities, which is unfortunate. I hope they can continue what dialogue did begin. I do hope can continue in whatever format. I just wanted to briefly talk about oversight. Our commission recommended an oversight committee made up of people knowledgeable about zoo animals and zoo management. The intent was not to have an oversight committee of zoo apologists, nor to have one stacked with people who want to close the zoo. We wanted real substantive oversight, and that, to my mind, requires people who know about the issue and can see through advocates on both sides' attempts to snow them. Prop E, which was passed by the voters for the PUC, puts qualifications on membership. The rationale is the PUC's role is so important to the health and welfare of the people of San Francisco that the people pointed to it should have certain skill levels and knowledge base. And the Zoo Oversight Committee is equally important to the health and welfare of the animals, and I encourage you to follow our Commission's recommendation to add qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Some more speakers. Seamus McGeever, Andrea Brooks, Needy Singh, Elliot Katz, Pam Hempel, Teresa Hallinan. You've heard your name. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Nidhi Singh. I'm a realtor, District 5. Unfortunately, Supervisor Dufty is not here. Thank you, Chris Daly, for bringing this up. And I want to acknowledge Supervisor Amiano and Supervisor Dufty, who's not here. This is a historic moment in time. I would like to remind you of various battles that you have been at the forefront of, and some you have and some were before you, whether it's civil rights or rights of people who are HIV positive. You know the institutional reaction of people working in the various companies, pharmacies, how they react. They feel threatened. They feel that you're against them. The fact is, this is a movement towards a future And as the lady from Russia said, this is going to have an impact on zoos all over the world. I'm familiar with zoos in India and Jamaica. They were imposed on me. I'm not necessarily a zoo goer. So take this moment, go for the right thing, make a change. Change is uncomfortable. People will understand over time. These organizations will alter and change their ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Singh. Next speaker, please.
My name is Andrea Brooks. I serve on the Animal Control and Welfare Commission. I'm going to keep my comments really brief. Again, getting back to oversight, I like the changes I'm hearing with regards to the Joint Zoo Committee being changed, but I still think independent oversight is essential. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, next speaker, please.
I think Arlene Campbell is my name. Okay. I'd like to see the zoo and the wildlife rescue to be in conjunction. But what I'm here to address a problem that's going on with the animals that people aren't aware of. I'm a naturalist and a photojournalist, and I'm still going to school. And there's like 10 to 5 homeless guys that are spraying this stuff. It's called ether. It's not rave dance ether. It's World War I, World War II ether. You can see it on Google. And they're spraying the zoo animals. And I'd like to see a 24/7 facility at the zoo. So maybe the zoo and the wildlife rescue can get together and be in conjunction and be separate entities and operate separately and be together.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
My name is Dr. Elliot Katz. I'm a veterinarian, president of In Defense of Animals. I want to thank Supervisor Daley and Supervisor Amiano for being here. You've heard some of the differences today. I'm totally convinced that if this ordinance passes, there will be a positive effort on behalf of the animal advocates, as it were, on behalf of the animal advocates who work at the zoo, because if one doesn't think of the employees and the people on the zoo board as animal advocates, I don't know what else to call them. So there's no way that they're going to lose their accreditation. This is a positive step. I think we can all work together, and I ask that you do vote and pass this ordinance today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Katz. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Pam Hemphill. I'm on the Animal Control and Welfare Commission, and I would like to also back up the importance of having an independent overview commission for the zoo. I think what's going on here today points that up, and that they should not be members of Park and Rec or the zoo, but be apart from that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Next speaker, please. And if there's anyone else who wishes to comment on item number 10, please line up in the middle aisle.
Hi, I'm Seamus McGeever, and I'm not brainwashed. And when I initially heard the proposal about turning the zoo into a rescue zoo, I originally liked it, but when I heard about what it would do to the zoo in terms of not allowing certain species to be bred, I think about half the species we breed were not included in the on that list. And yeah, I just think we should be very cautious before we make any large decision about what the future of the zoo will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Supervisors, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Douglas. I do vegan outreach in the Bay Area. I am a zoo supporter. The day before yesterday, I went to the San Francisco Zoo for the first time since I was last there in the late 70s and early 80s. I stayed away from the zoo because I was terrified of the zoo back then. I didn't see much improvement when I went to the zoo Tuesday. I heard a lot of people praising zoo development, such as the African savanna. The African savanna is a 3-acre enclosure. A region of the real African savanna is approximately 2,400 miles, spanning part of the width of Africa. Please do the math. I saw the underfed giraffe eating part of the wooden fence at the African savanna, the wooden enclosures, the wall. The current oversight of the San Francisco Zoo is wrong, and caring for the animals is right. Please support Ordinance 080818. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
My name is Darwin Mayhew, and for about 10 years I've been going to the zoo, and I've seen great change. I've always wanted to work at the zoo, and I think if it changes, I might not be able to have the chance to help animals in the way I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to work at the zoo and just help animals become more safe, more just be able to live better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Eric Brooks with San Francisco Green Party. As you know, the Green Party thinks that this legislation is an excellent first step and definitely should move forward, but that we also have some improvements we'd like to see on it to make it an even bolder vision on environmental issues and even biodiversity and restoration. And just to maybe help clarify what we couldn't get Director Friedman to clarify, we've already changed this legislation in response to things that the Zoological Society said they needed. We don't see that coming from the other side. I contacted, on behalf of the Green Party, Director Friedman a few weeks ago and said, hey, why don't you include the Green Party and let's get some even better stuff happening here. And he said that the Zoological Society was so resistant to any change whatsoever that it would be impossible to add a new voice to the process. So if they're going to be this way, let's add these strengthening amendments when we get to the board.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Tooley, and I just want to say that I support converting the zoo into a sanctuary for animals. From a native, indigenous perspective, it is very unnatural for these healthy animals to be captured and caged. And I will forever be haunted the last time I was at the zoo when the polar bear looked at me deep into my eyes and showed that he was so unhappy. These are our relatives, and we need to respect them. And we have a lot more respect than the people who are laughing in the audience, because obviously they've lost their relationship with other beings in this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Coulier. Next speaker, please. And if there's anyone else on item number 10 on the San Francisco Zoo policies and oversight, please line up in the middle aisle. Thank you.
Oh, yes. My name is Gail Caswell, and I am in favor of converting the zoo to a sanctuary, or at least increasing the rescue function. I don't think that the zoo would have to change that much for it to become a rescue function. I mean, certainly the animals who are rescued are also beautiful animals that people would want to come see, like the grizzly sisters who have already been rescued, and there may also be other rescued animals there. I don't feel that the zoo would lose its quality. As I said, I mean, a rescued animal is just as beautiful as any animal that is bought for the zoo. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Francisco da Costa, and I'm the Director of Environmental Justice Advocacy. I really cannot understand anybody who has a mentality to go to a zoo where the animals are put in such small enclosures and get some thrill out of looking at the animals. I was born in a land where wildlife was free, and I believe in freedom, not only for human beings. You know, we are a species called the Homo sapiens, but for all animals. So the San Francisco Zoo, I know some changes are being made, calling it a sanctuary or whatever, but I think the sooner we phase it out, the better. Animals should roam freely. We should look at the animals when they are free. And for us human beings to think that we can put the animals in some sort of enclosure and get some satisfaction is wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If there's no one else on this item, I'll close public comment. Let me thank everyone who came out. Again, apologize for limiting public comment to 1 minute each. I would have given more if our agenda wasn't as heavy, but I am looking forward to our afternoon session. Let me just ask colleagues for their support to send this item out of committee. I think that this is not a consensus proposal, but I don't believe there to be a consensus proposal. I believe there to be some competing visions around the future of the San Francisco Zoo, and some who support the existing vision. I don't question their commitment to do the best that they can with what they're working with their vision. But as the maker of this ordinance, I believe that their vision in some ways runs counter to the mission of doing what's in the best interest of animals. I've talked before about taking my kids to the zoo and the very mixed feelings that I have. I talked a bit about seeing some of the enclosures that some of the animals are living in, and all of us agreeing that that they weren't up to par. But if we can ensure through selection of animals that will be living at the zoo, that the zoo is a better place than their current living situation, then we are definitely meeting the goals of doing what's in the best interest of those individual animals. And while there may be some remaining issues to work out on the conservation end, vis-a-vis the breeding of animals on the list that we've included in the legislation in terms of genetic diversity, I'm committed to working through those issues, and if there is an amendment that's needed in this legislation, I would accommodate. With that said, I think that the real discussion on this item will be when it's in front of all 11 members of the board. I hope that our 8 colleagues were able to see the more substantive hearing 3 weeks ago, and then are able to review this hearing today as well, in terms of helping them to make their decision about what their vision for the San Francisco Zoo is, and I'll leave it at that. Supervisor Dufty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't view this issue as a mutually exclusive one. I know that some of the debate and discussion here was an all-or-nothing proposition, either to move forward with the legislation as currently crafted or fear that advancing this legislation would undermine the ability of the zoo to be a robust institution that has a strong education component, continues to receive the foundation and private support that it needs to improve conditions there. I've been open in acknowledging the problems of the zoo, and I was very active around the elephant issue and strongly advocated with Mr. Molinado at the time the steps that were taken to recognize that the San Francisco Zoo did not have an appropriate exhibit for elephants and was not appropriate to keep 2 elephants isolated, and that is why the board took action then and set standards for any zoo exhibit that would be minimum standards of 16 acres, for example, that I think would meet concerns of individuals. I continue to believe that there is room for common ground. I recognize that there is not trust from all parties, that without an all-or-nothing parameter that rescue animals would become a priority at the zoo. At the same time, I am concerned that I think issues like governance, restructuring the Joint Zoo Committee, and other issues still need to be worked out, and so I will not be supporting this legislation, but recognize it will be moving to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Amiano.
Yeah, I feel like Paula Abdul a little bit here, so let me give it the shot. I'm a father and a grandfather,
Does that make me sound?
And a teacher. Mr. Cowell. But this audience, I think you're aware of the first part of the meeting. It's a guilty pleasure. The zoo's been a guilty pleasure for me for a long time. I think the right way to go on this, and I think there is probably some misunderstanding about what happens when it goes to the full board. If it goes to the full board, it's not the end of the story. There are many, many feelings on the board. I want to hear from my colleagues about this issue, and hopefully they have gotten to see some of the hearings. That would be terrifically helpful. The zoo, I think it's incumbent on the zoo to have a higher calling than currently the foreman's taking. And that doesn't mean negative, or that doesn't mean either or, particularly around the education piece. What I would suggest, though, is that if this does go to the full board, we don't do it as a committee report, but we send it sometime to the full board for consideration or amendments or discussion after our break, which I believe is in and around, I think we resume about September 9th, right? Something like that. So we can have a roll call on that, but anyway, that's my thinking. I think
Supervisor, if you want to forward the item out without a committee report, I'm certainly fine with that, to allow for additional time for parties potentially to get together. Again, I'm not overly optimistic that there would be a singular common vision for the future of the zoo, but if there is, that certainly makes our job much easier if all the stakeholders come together. Supervisor Duffy, I think that Supervisor Amiano is willing to make a motion to move without recommendation, if you would support that, or if you want to.
So you're sending it out without recommendation?
Not as a committee report, so it would end up appearing.
I still want a roll call.
All right, then Supervisor Amiano, do you want to make a motion to do with recommendation if we're going to do a roll call?
I would say without recommendation to the full board after the break.
Okay. Madam Clerk, that motion, a roll, please.
On the motion, Supervisor Duffy?
No.
Supervisor Amiano?
Aye.
Supervisor Daley?
Aye.
2 ayes, 1 no.
Okay, it'll be at the full board in September. Colleagues, if it's all right for you, since we've been going nonstop since 10, my apologies to people who are here for the 1:30 special order, but if we can take 5 minutes, I need to get something quick in my stomach. We're recessed.